Hey there, everybody. This video is our reaction to the new Power Book 2 Ghost trailer, an actual trailer with actual footage. It's not like 20 seconds long like the teaser was, where there was like a million Starz branding things around it to make it look longer than it really was.
No, they gave us a lot of stuff to really get us excited about what's coming up.
We have in here real details about Tariq's journey, some callbacks to some Power characters from the past. There's a good bit to dive into. I think we get a good basic sense of what the show is going to be. So we'll break all this down. It is premiering September 6th. Not that far away. I kind of thought it'd be later in September, honestly, given that it doesn't seem like they're done filming the season, and who knows when they're going to be able to be done filming the season.
Yeah, or how much they really have left to film. I mean, it was surprising that this date is coming up this soon, but I am not going to complain.
No, I'm not mad, given that there's pretty much almost nothing on TV anymore at this point.
Yeah.
So if you guys do like this trailer analysis, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Also, we have our store and our Patreon linked in the description below if you want to support us over there. We've got tiers, all sorts of good stuff. Well worth checking out. Just like this trailer was very much well worth checking out.
Okay, so let's start with the Tasha of it all. So the beginning of this trailer shows her getting arrested. Tariq is freaking out, and, she tells him she doesn't want his help. She just wants him to focus on school. She is obviously taking the fall for everything that's happened with Ghost. And that's where we are with that. And obviously Tariq is not going to want his mom to just take the fall. I mean, he doesn't want to go to jail either. But he wants to be able to help. She wants to be able to help him. They're sort of just sitting in the same boat together.
I think what makes this situation so tricky is that Tasha's a smart cookie. And Tasha, I think she knows that if she's not going to be sort of the person pointed as the murderer in this, it's probably going to be Tariq. And I think that, yes, the cops, the investigators, the Eastern District, like all these people, they do occasionally have idiotic tendencies where they're not always as smart as they probably should be, but they're not all dumb. Like, they can figure things out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there was a moment back, I think, in season 5 of Power where Angela was talking to Tasha, and Tasha was like, oh, I'm going to take the fall for this Ray Ray thing. And she was kind of like, well, you can't. And then Ghost was like, well, then I'll take the fall for it. And she started like peppering him with questions, being like, well, what about this, Mr. St. Patrick? What about this? And he couldn't answer anything. And she was basically saying, you can't just go in and confess and be like, yeah, I did it. You need details for your lie. They are going to pull it apart. And if they think you're lying, you're done. They're just going to cut her loose.
Yeah. Buck is not a bad investigator. We saw that on Power itself. And, even Cooper Saxe, yes, Cooper Saxe has a questionable track record when it comes to all of this, to say the least. But he has his moments. So I think Tasha is fine playing the martyr, but I think the problem is Tariq is like, no. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find Davis McLean, who's played by Method Man. I'm going to get him on board. He's going to be the attorney who's going to sweep in and save the day. But the problem is that Davis wants $500K. Just to start, $500K. I cannot.
That is crazy. Clearly, we're in the wrong business.
Clearly, we need to go become like lawyers to like high-profile headline criminals, because they make. I guess that's probably a part of it where Davis is just sort of like, the optics of representing somebody responsible for murdering James St. Patrick probably aren't that great. So if I'm gonna have to take this on, I need, like, the truckload.
Be paid for it.
Yeah, but back up the Brinks truck, give me all the money, and then maybe at that point, we'll talk. The problem is, and I gotta ask you this, because I'm very curious about it. If you're Davis and you're basically saying to a kid, go get me $500,000, do you actually legitimately think there's any chance this kid's gonna bring you this money?
No, my feeling is he gave just such a ridiculous price tag that he thought that Tariq would just go away.
I guess that is what it's probably going to happen, unless he thinks somehow that he's connected to James's money. But I think there's got to be a part of him that's like, you know what? This kid's probably not going to get the money, so I don't have to worry about it. And if he does, it's $500,000. I think I'm going to be all right.
So we also see Saxe telling Tariq to get Tasha to tell the truth, which is sort of goes in line with a bit of what I was saying earlier about, they're going to be able to figure out that Tasha is not telling the truth and that she is protecting someone. But it's interesting that Saxe is asking that of Tariq, because Saxe is a smart guy. And I think that he probably knows that his mom is protecting him or somebody close to her. So, I mean, that whole scene just feels like a bit more of a I'm fishing for information more so than like, hey, go get your mom to tell the truth, like I just don't think that's exactly what he's doing. I think he's fishing.
Is this time for me to have my every Power edition, my love for Cooper Saxe? Because this guy's such a train wreck. I love everything about Saxe. I love the fact that he's usually like right 90% of the time with a lot of his like intuition. But I don't know if there's ever been a character in television history that is as intuitive and yet just as consistently like terrible at executing every single thing in his mind, because
he does. He like always seems to like miss the finish line by like a second.
He's like the guy who scores like 30 points in a basketball game every single time, but then it's like there's 30 seconds left, he's down by a point, and he like airballs the shot. Like he can never finish the job. And this, I already feel pretty confident in knowing that Saxe is not going to finish this job either. It's going to blow up in his face all over again.
Yeah, I mean, like, as much as it would be interesting to see Saxe finally have a win, I mean, I don't want to watch Tasha stay in jail, and I don't really want to see Tariq go to jail either.
It's not going to be that effective of a show if this ends with Tariq in jail or Tasha in jail. It's just, you need these people out there. And trust me, we're well aware that there are plenty of people out there who probably are like, Tariq needs to go to jail. Tariq's got to win some people over with this show.
He's still young enough to be able to have some kind of redemption arc. And I assume with the fact that they want to have this spin-off with him, that is what they are trying to do, to try to turn it around. Can they turn it around? I don't know. We got to wait and actually see what the story is that they put together for him. Maybe there's a way to turn around. He is a very young character.
So it seems like now, as Tariq is realizing he needs his 500K, he needs to find a way to do it. Tasha taught him a lot about the game. He saw at least some of growing up under Ghost, a little bit of what's going on here, and he has a pretty good environment to foster some sort of criminal drug exchange empire, in that he's at a school, and here's the thing about schools that are kind of like this, and yeah, I know a little bit of the experience, not from personal experience. I was not Tariq when I was in college, but at schools like this, you tend to have a lot of like really rich people who often probably grew up in a very sheltered environment where they weren't really allowed to ever color outside the lines or do anything crazy. Now mom and dad aren't around anymore. They're going to go nuts. They're going to go wild, and they need suppliers. Like, we know Power loves to talk about, they got to get a connect. Tariq is the perfect connect for a lot of these kids with a lot of money, no real understanding of the value of money, and no real understanding of the impact of any of this. So they're going to order a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, and we've already seen Tariq dabbling in this when he was at Choate, and he was dealing with some of the other people that were there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he has a little bit of experience, wasn't moving large amounts of anything, but he did kind of figure out that there is a little bit of play going on at a school. And yeah, there is probably a lot more of a play than him just stealing drugs from Tommy and then trying to like resell them at the school.
Yeah, I think there's got to be something more that's going on. Man, I just had like a moment in my head. I was just like, oh, Tommy's not gonna be around in this show.
Know.
Like, I don't think I don't think he's driving back that car at the moment. So I think we're gonna have to live in a world where we don't have him. It seems like instead we got other people who are going to be sort of taking on that criminal kingpin role.
Yeah, so we're going to have Monet, and we saw her in the trailer sort of wondering if she should trust Tariq, and of course she shouldn't trust him. She doesn't know him yet, but yeah. I mean, obviously that seems like something that's going to grow in this season. I mean, I'm sure we're going to sort of see him growing into his dad, which is something that he didn't really want. I mean, that was something he seemed to be fighting against for all of Power. I don't want to be like you, but then I'm going to secretly sneak around and be like you. Like, it was always sort of this push and pull with Tariq, and now he's in this position again. We even saw it in the trailer where it was kind of like, oh man, you're really turning out like your dad, or sort of going down that same path as your dad, which is something that I really wonder where Tariq falls with that, because he was pushing so hard back at his dad, but then he was following in his footsteps in a lot of his younger years. So where does he really want to be? And that is what's interesting just about the whole Tariq storyline, because he is so young. Like, so young, and a lot of stuff has happened to him of his own doing.
Yeah.
And falling sort of into the wrong hands and being led into this really strange path.
And he was so resistant to being like his dad, and like not wanting to like his dad or fight against him in the later seasons of Power, that the idea of him suddenly becoming Ghost is a little bit weird. And, with Monet, she's such an interesting character to me, because I think there were like two really big tinfoil hat theories entering book 2. Number one, that Ghost was alive, which there's no real evidence that Ghost is still alive based on anything in here. Who knows in this world? But the other one was that maybe Monet was somehow related to Ghost or tied to Ghost in some way. There's no real evidence of that in here. It doesn't seem like Monet knows Tariq on any sort of level, but Mary J. Blige is playing the character. I'm excited to see what she brings to the table. I think it feels like she's gonna be particularly dangerous, and I don't want to say a big bad per se, but she is sort of, insert word connect here. She's yet another connect to what Tariq is gonna try to do, and I think he's gonna find himself kind of pushed with Monet at one side, School at another, and then even Tasha at another.
Yeah, and it seems like he's going to be balancing a couple ladies as well. We saw going on in the trailers. It seems like there's going to be a lot going on for him, with his mom in jail. He's trying to get the money together. He's trying to stay good at school, and he's trying to balance out having a social life at school. There's going to be a lot packed into this.
Now, in terms of Power cameos, we'll close talking a little bit about this, because we had Saxe, and Saxe actually seems like he's going to be a major part of the show. Simon Stern also shows up in the trailer, and I've said this before, that I think Simon Stern is legitimately the person on Power who actually has the most power, because he's like the shadowy sort of broker figure who just sort of shows up and moves money around and seems to like cackle in his internal monologue all the time. He doesn't really have that big a role in the trailer,
but he does always show up at the time when somebody needs help. He's kind of like Rumpelstiltskin.
He really is. Like, that's probably the best comparison to him, because he's just so, there's just such a wickedness about him, and I think a part of it's like Victor Garber's so good at like playing this sort of like, nefarious intellectual character who, has some sort of like cruel ideas working behind the scenes. I hope there are more cameos that sort of turn up throughout all of this. I still feel like I know he's got his own show. I think there's still a chance that Tate could pop up in here in some shape or form. I mean, I know we're not going to probably see Tommy anytime soon. I wonder, because 50 Cent seems to love to play Kanan's ghost. So, not Ghost, but Kanan's ghost. I would not be surprised if, like, Tariq, like, 3 episodes in, all of a sudden he's got, like, visions of Kanan showing up and, like, talking to him again.
And I'm hoping that he's going to have visions of his dad. I mean, if this is sort of Power Book 2 Ghost, or he's becoming Ghost, or he's sort of dealing with fighting back about what he, his involvement in what happened with his dad, and his fighting with his dad, and just the death of his dad, and what's happening with his mom because of what he did to his dad, like all of this stuff, I would really like to see, and I know that I'm just being delusional here, but I would really love to see Ghost come back in some kind of way, almost like we saw on Dexter, where Dexter was dealing with sort of this conscience of his dad showing up in his mind and kind of guiding him in these different ways, or fighting back against his own dad.
I love it, because it's called Ghost in the title. I think it makes sense that he would be haunted in some ways by the person he killed. Gets Amari back on the show, which I'm never going to be upset about, because Amari's great. And so I don't know if it'll happen. I think it's more likely than Ghost still being alive, but we don't have that long to wait, just a little over a month. I'm sure we'll have a lot more Book 2 stuff as we inch ever closer to Book 2. premiering, so keep your eyes peeled and let us know your thoughts on this trailer in the comments. And if you did like this video, give us a like, subscribe, support us further. Check the links in the description to the store, to our Patreon. We'll see you guys here next time.